All right. Welcome to another episode of the School of Weird. So excited to have one of my good friends, John Rota, on today. He is a new up and coming author. Very excited about this concept that he's writing about because it's a very different approach to the way we look at meditation and so many other things from the lens of golf. So, John, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Frankie. Thank you.
All right, John. So, how did you come up with this idea to try to merge this world of meditation and centeredness and fulfillment with golf?
Well, I came up with the idea about 10 years ago in Los Angeles when I was playing a lot with friends of mine, and we'd do all these fun games and have all this interesting practice regimen, and we would say to ourselves, who would benefit from this? Everybody. And it was an unorthodox way to practice, so it was keeping us engaged in a way. And Nick Faldo always used to talk about, play games on the range to keep yourself focused. A lot of times you get into a monotonous, what I call in the book, a methodical routine where you're not even thinking, you're just doing. But this gives you an opportunity to do that in a good way, which is like you get into a zone where you're having fun with it. When you have fun with it, you're more engaged, and when you're more engaged, you get better. So that's sort of what the idea was, and and then it morphed into more of a mindset handbook. As I started writing, I'm influenced by so many authors like Neville Goddard and Wayne Dyer and Thich Nhat Hanh and Carolyn Mace and Alan Watts and Bruce Lee. And so I incorporated a lot of their teachings into the game of golf, which dovetailed really beautifully, actually. And it felt like the book was actually channeled in a way from them. And
Interesting.
it really was a unique way to go about the game of golf. It's like sort of like, it's really a recreation in the form, meditation in the form of recreation is the whole.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've never been much of a golfer. I mean, I've golfed a lot, but I've never been much of a golfer, if you know what I mean. I usually am the type that likes to be in a scramble with two people that are way better than me, so that everything just kind of like bell curves up in my favor.
Right.
But it's funny you mentioned that because I think one of the reasons I was traditionally not good at golf is I would always be golfing in the middle of a work day, and I would always have my phone, and like I would do good for maybe some holes, and then all of a sudden something even basic pops up, and all of a sudden my mind is just slightly thinking about this other thing, and all of a sudden it's just slice heaven or slice hell,
Right.
however you
lost focus.
slices. But I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's ridiculous how much focus. Funny enough, I switched from golf to flying airplanes, which is probably even more terrifying. It's like I'm not that focused, so now I'm going to fly airplanes.
That's true.
Can die, no doubt. But I'm going to tell you something about texting and flying. So with texting and driving is that you can veer into different lanes, and it's, you could really quickly run into a car. But when you're up in the air, you can veer into all the lanes, and like nobody really notices, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as you don't go up or down too much. Yeah, you can text and fly so much easier than texting and driving, for those of you who don't know. So, okay. Yeah, good to know, right?
So that's a great idea.
Yeah, my golf career kind of turned into that. But I love what you're doing here because it's so interesting. It's so different. It's so unique. And in today's really chaotic world, you decided to come out with this book, right? You have this calling to like want to do more, want to go deeper and help humans. And you decided to do it in this thing. And this book isn't just for golfers. Tell me more about this meditation in the form of recreation. Because I think that's an important component. I love that you're using golf. It's a great hook, but is it really a book that people that don't golf can get a lot out of?
Yeah. First and foremost, if you're a player and you love the game already, this book is for you, right? It's really it's a mental book game because if you're a lot of times you're at a certain level and you're at a plateau, and the only way to get to the next plateau is the mind. You already have a swing. You already have skills. You already understand how to play. You can get better, but the mind is really what's maybe holding you back. But if somebody who doesn't, in this age of anxiety, healing, trauma, devices, news feeds, cable channels, video games, distractions, it's like going left when everyone's going right. Go analog. It's kind of what I'm interested in here. Turn off the device, grab a glove, and go outside. Meditation in the form of recreation. Come back to center in the name of the game. That's sort of what it's about. So it's about like a lot of people have a hard time meditating, right? You talk about this, and 20 minutes sitting alone in your room, being silent with your phone next to you, your iPad next to you, your MacBook and everything, and something else going on, your kids running around in the background. very difficult to concentrate for that time. But if you take a club,
Yeah, there's a reason you're not that good at meditation.
right, and it's a distraction in a way.
Nobody is in that setting.
Right. And so this is a way to access that kind of mindset and that kind of calm easier when you're out there chipping or putting or on the range or playing. So it gives you it keeps you more mindful because you're distracted doing an activity that you love. And then you end up actually loving the game more because you realize that's your place of solace. That's the place that
100%.
you can go to kind of get away from it all. Like you can go flying, you can go play golf, you can go hiking, you can climb, you can bike. This is all along the lines. In fact, I might even do the book's called Let Go, Let Golf. And I'm thinking about doing a series of Let Go, Let Other Things just to kind of
Oh, I love that.
try and,
Yeah. All around recreation.
right. Recreation. Yeah. So I like the idea. And I think,
Yeah, let go, let fly.
yeah. That doesn't
Let it fly.
That doesn't sound safe, but I like it a lot. Let me write that down.
Let go, let fly. It's called strategic meditative autopilot.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily for everybody, I'm not going to be a commercial pilot. So
Yeah, that's good.
rest assured, if you're flying on United, Delta, or American, that I am not your pilot.
It won't be
so
you.
Not to worry.
If I hear your voice though on my next Delta flight, I'm gonna worry.
This is your captain speaking, Mr. Russo. How is everyone today? We prioritize your meditation today, so we will not be focused as much on the flight as we are on being present.
On you.
This flight is about you, not us.
Right, exactly. Well, the thing is, it's funny because when I wrote this book, it was about fun ways to practice, but then it became about better ways to live your life, and then it's like a self-help book through the lens of golf, and I'm really big into that, and I love the game, and I'm an amateur player, so it's almost like it's not Phil Mickelson or Tiger Woods talking to you from the heavens. This is somebody you could be paired with on any Sunday, or Saturday, and I'm
right.
But it's very relatable, and
that's good.
It's not I didn't reinvent the wheel. It's all stuff that's tried and true, but it's a different way to approach it. And it also involves some personal anecdotes and how my grandfather taught me, and a little bit of philosophizing on the way you play and the game itself. Like a lot of times,
I love that.
I have a story called the 5-hour friendship. Right, every golf round you meet people for 5 hours, and then you might never see them again. But you go through the trials and tribulations. You're like a band of brothers. By the end of by the 17th hole, by the 18th, you shake hands and you might not ever see them again. But you never know who you're going to meet. People could be in your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime, and you can end up making a best friend when you play. Right. Or you might never see them again. And so it's so.
I love that. Well, and I think at the end of the day, what's beautiful about it is that there's not the same objectives to the relationship as like a lot of like relationships in the world, like whether it's family or work or whatever. There's so much tied to it. And it's this amazing place where there's this common ground. Doesn't matter where you came from, what you look like, who you are. And all of a sudden, we're all the same because we're golfers. And I love that. I think recreation in general lends itself to that. There were two things you mentioned words so far that really stuck out for me. One was play and one was healing trauma.
Yeah. And
so I do want to kind of drop into that a bit with you because, as you know, Love Your Weird is my body of work. It's something I'm very passionate about. I don't know if you know this, but the weird isn't an external thing or some sort of like how we dress or how we identify and all this other stuff. It's actually that weird 5-year-old kid that we were before the world started to change us or have us mask our uniqueness.
Yes.
All right. So important. You said play, and it's interesting because usually what keeps us from playing as adults is related to trauma. So it's interesting you mentioned healing trauma and play almost in the same sentence because I think that they're very closely related. And one of the things that I think people get so stuck, they get burnt out, they get in this status quo, is that they get into a place where they just don't play anymore, especially at work.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little more about this idea of like, play, healing trauma, how you frame that, or is any of that in the book?
Yeah, some of it's in the book. I mean, you get a lot of that. There's a lot of stories that touch upon that. I don't really use the word trauma in the book because that's where it gets kicked around more than pickleball.
Yeah, you have to use it wisely.
Village, that's like a very
I'm very careful. I just started using it a little bit more, but you don't want to go too crazy with it. But I think there's something to honoring it, right? Absolutely. Especially when you start thinking about. I think we've historically humans have thought of trauma as like a big thing. And I think it's the little stuff that we don't even really know is like part of our adult operating system
Yeah.
that needs to get reformatted and upgraded
Yeah, it's called shadow
and
work.
really looked at.
It's called shadow
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
And the thing is this is that when you're playing, you forget a little bit about yourself. Like Joe Dispenza always talks about, you're nobody, no place, nowhere. And when you're in
Yeah.
that space, that's where you can act.
You're hit. That's when your best golf game is, no
That's where you
doubt.
bet that. And I have a story called Your Flow, how you access it, and it's sort of in flow. It comes through surrender, and I think the way you heal is through surrender. You just kind of what happened to you happened to you. You can't keep beating yourself
Yeah.
up about it. And also, there's also a thing about keeping in that cycle of healing. If always somebody's always working on their healing, they're always healing. When do you ever?
Yeah.
When do you heal? When is the road stop for you? And you say, "Oh, I feel."
Right.
You
That's
don't
right.
have to heal every bit of trauma or abuse or anything else that happened in your life every single day. You know, you can work on it in steps, and you can forgive yourself for not getting to that place yet. And I think, like, golf or tennis or whatever activity you take is a good way not only to get physical, because it's great to be physical in your life and it helps your
Right.
mental, but it also helps you forget and enjoy your life. You're on earth for a finite amount of time, and you might as well enjoy
Yeah, and
it.
it's a lot healthier than doing drugs, because
Yeah,
drugs can help you forget
it
too. And
becomes as
I
addicting.
think I don't know if yeah, you know that about me as far as like being a drug addict, alcoholic,
Yeah,
and now recovered the last 16 years. I've done a lot of work around that, and the fact is that we all need some way to transcend where we are, to get into another space,
yep,
and it's easy to kind of like default to the cheaper paid version, which is usually drugs, which has
correct.
this huge negative effect. And so it's important that we find other things that can become, in some ways, a new drug. Now, that may, like, there may be some wives out there that, like, yeah, my husband is definitely addicted to golf. I hope he doesn't buy this book, or that kind of thing. Do you touch on that at all? That the relationship between like the time that we're investing versus like the whole like, are you married?
I'm not yet anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I can't wait to see kind of how the book shifts once you're married, because that's a big thing, right? You have to really negotiate a lot of that stuff. I'm
Yeah,
sure you're aware of that,
yeah, I am aware.
right?
I have
The
to do that
golf
with my
time
girl now.
negotiated with the wife.
Of course,
Yeah.
you have to do that. I mean,
That's what I always think about. It's like, what do I want to use as my negotiation chips? I got 6 kids, so
that's
I
amazing.
have to choose. I have to choose wisely
You do have
on what
you
I'm
don't have a
gonna.
lot of time, Frankie. You do not have a lot of time.
There's right. So I have to really choose
That's why you
wisely
need
what
to
I'm
pick
gonna
up
go
some
for.
golf now. Now maybe you go flying and then you
Tell me about it.
fly yourself to a
No, look.
course and then land near the course.
The one cool thing is my wife now, she was a golfer in high school and college, which was awesome.
Oh, cool.
You don't have that luxury where your wife is actually good at golf all the time. There's a lot of great golfers that are wives.
Yeah.
But it was really cool for me to like actually get married to somebody who likes to golf. That really is a fun experience to do together.
She would like the book as well. The book is written by a male, but it's, if you love the game of golf, you're going to get some laughs out of it. The thing I like about,
No, I am excited. Actually,
yeah,
the thing that I think she would be the most like intrigued by is this idea of meditation in the form of recreation,
right.
because she's really big into that, especially with our kids. Like, she's very passionate. In fact, this morning she was like, I really want to create a movement and a place that helps kids like reconnect from a physical body standpoint, and also help them reconnect from like a mind spirit.
Absolutely.
She's super
I
passionate
love that.
about that. So she's going to love that book.
Yeah, I think she will too. And you know what I would like to do with this book, going down the line, is create like maybe an annual golf tournament where people can come, and then we could do
For sure.
like a
Oh,
tournament,
you have
but
to
also have like a meditation on the 18th green, and we can kind of do the whole mindfulness thing as long as with a great trophy ceremony as well, of course. Um,
Yeah.
Free gifts and swag and good food. But I think that I want to incorporate the entire thing into an actual experiential situation. And my hope is also that the community builds, and that people come up
Nice.
with their own games, their own unorthodox ways to hit balls or to practice or to kind of get in their zone. And I want to hear what other people think about that. So I'm very interested.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
I think I love the idea of you creating actually like a new model for golf that's experiential, that can be duplicated with or without you involved
correct.
in the event.
Yeah, so
That would be really cool. Have you modeled that out at all in the book?
no, not in the book. This is like separate from the book.
Yeah.
This idea came about after I got out of the writing process and I started to think about marketing
Yeah.
and things like that.
I would really lean into that, because
Yeah.
experiential things, whether it's experiential therapy or just experiences like going to a concert, that's the stuff that people really fall in love with and they remember. And so I definitely think if you have some sort of experiential component to this, even like retreats, master classes, I mean, there's a lot you can do with this that could be really powerful.
Yeah, this is a
I'm
whole
all about the immersive stuff.
this is a whole world that's come out of this book, and this is like a new phase in my career as well, and it's exciting about that. I'm not just a producer and a creative and a operations leader, and a studio lead type of thing. I'm into mindfulness. I'm into mental health, and I think in this day and age, more of this type of thought process is needed. And to get up.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
like the whole idea
This
of
is
going.
the only way to evolve.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
go
I
analyze.
mean, we're going into a time where machines are changing everything. AI is changing everything. People are saying that we might get replaced at work by robots, and they're not wrong. And I'm actually just did a TED talk on this idea that the best way to beat the machine is to let it win, because we're not going to win at the machine game. We're just not. They may not have everything tweaked out, but give it a couple more years, like they will get it ironed out, I assure you.
Yeah.
And so then where does that leave us? And where it leaves us is, what is it that we can do that the machines can't? Because that's exactly where we should be focused. Because if I'm so worried that a machine can take my job, then maybe I'm not in the right job. If I'm so worried that a machine can do these things that maybe I wasn't supposed to ever be doing in the first place. And so to that end, I think your passion and your mission for analog is critical, because that's where we have to go, is like, how do we go back to analog and then use the machine? So it's not like we just are separate from the machines. They're integrated. So what it is like, okay, I believe that the most human traits and our superpowers in this machine era are authenticity, imagination, and generosity.
Absolutely.
These are core things that not only create like deep fulfillment, but I've also created this framework to unlock a lot of powerful things in the workplace, right? And what I've come to realize is that the machines actually can help us be freed up to be more authentic, lean into what we were born to do in the first place. They can help us take our imagination, turn it into reality, right? And they can help us scale our generosity. So to that end, I actually
also
like to do this
just to add on to that, just to add on.
Go for it.
I think a lot of it is fear mongering though as well, about they're taking your job. I think there's a level to let's lessen the panic, people. Let's like you're saying, maybe it's time to find your real purpose then. And obviously everybody's gone through that. Everybody kind of questions it. They don't know. Not everything everybody does for a career is really what they should be doing. Of course, there's millions of people that speaks to, but I think that you have to use it. Yeah, we're not going to beat it, but it's going to continue to be ironed out and developed and refined. So how do you use it to benefit your life? How do you?
That's right.
And then
that's right. And I think
too. How do you?
Well, and not only benefit your life, but how do you use it to benefit others' lives? Right. And I think that one thing that's really important during this time is to always just recenter and go back to like, okay,
correct.
What is reality? What do I need to accept? And those types of things. And, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is that we have to continually go back to who is it that we are at our core, right? So like with you, John, one of the quickest ways that I always find to figure out like, who is John Rota at the core is to think about who was John at 5. Right. So just for a minute, just humor me for a second. Tell me a little bit about at 5 years old, 6 years old, what was John into?
John was a funny kid, sort of already the life of the party. I used to make the adults laugh a lot, hang out with adults. So I was, I think I always wanted to be maybe an actor or movie star. I used to imagine myself being an astronaut, rock star.
I love that.
A professional surfer, professional soccer player, because I played a lot of soccer back then. So I was always playing games. We grew up during the time where, video games were burgeoning. So we weren't really as into them as the kids are
right now. It wasn't as intense. We might have played a little Super Mario, but it wasn't like, it wasn't this immersive, or it wasn't our whole lives.
No, it wasn't our whole lives. It wasn't whole careers built out of that. We were still playing stickball and wiffle ball in the streets, and we were still playing two-hand touch in the streets and tackle football and soccer. So I was always playing a lot of sports in those days. You know, my friends were all athletes, and we were all, you know, student athletes. At 5, the student thing wasn't really exactly you know, super apparent yet, but you know,
Right.
we were outside a lot, and we were getting dirty. And we were, you know, we were trying, you know, my dad would whistle and I'd have to go home. That's when I would know, you know. So, you know, I remember, you know, playing a lot and always playing sports and trading baseball cards, and that's what we were into, you know.
No, I love that. And it feels like you're actually using this book to go back to some of that. And that's
It's
what's
so
beautiful.
true.
I think that
Yeah,
as adults, when we are doing things actively to love our weird, right? Which is the weird version of us when we were 5, 6 years old, right? When it didn't, because everything you just described, right? Astronaut, rock star,
yeah,
always in the dirt, like that's not that realistic for an adult. But
it's true.
it is realistic if I look at it as like what was behind all of that, right? What was it that was really that made me love all those things? And what can I bring forward in my adult life that can allow me to be in that space? Because there's something to play, you know,
There
and
is.
recreation.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's
and
so important.
and I think sometimes we think like, oh, well, this isn't as important as work, but it is.
It is, and also I think like well, I just came up with this, but it's like a mental massage. You know, when you get a massage, get knots rubbed out, and it kind of, you come out of it feeling a little more rubbery and loose and sort of like, you know, and it's sort of, when you get out and play, you let go of the things you're worried about, and
That's right.
you let play, you know, take over, and then you come up with a new idea, and then you realize there's
Right. And then
infinite
exactly.
possibility.
And then
You know,
you end up doing better at work. Cause I think that's where people
correct.
get frustrated. All these companies, they want to innovate, innovate, innovate. They want new ideas. It's like, where do you think that shit comes from? You know what I'm saying? You don't just decide, oh, we're going to have new ideas, or we're going to have innovation. And then it just happens. It happens as a result of having an entire, like, different approach to where those things are going to come
And
from. And sometimes that's just creating
that's
space.
correct, and
You have to
that's
create
what
that
I
space.
can't
And golf actually does create 5 hours of
It
space.
creates a lot of space. Even no, but I, you know, I really talk about it's really about purpose too. It's about purposeful practice makes perfect, I say. So,
That's right.
you know, it's about like you know, rediscovering your imaginative, playful side. You know,
That's right.
using your creativity to become a better player faster. You know, it's about imagination. I talk a little bit about Neville Goddard, who I'm a big advocate of, and he talks a lot about imagination. He said, you know, God isn't really this being that's up in the clouds. He's really lives in your consciousness.
That's right.
And the word I am, that is the name of God. Like Moses said, you know, the burning bush said, he asked what God's name is, and he said, I am that I am. He said his name. God's name
Yeah.
is I am. So everything you say after I am is pretty much the most important thing you can say. I am great. I am wealthy. I am abundant. I am happy. All of those things are extremely important to
Interesting.
living a happy life. So I have that in the book. I talk a lot about that, and I talk a lot about how you can hypnotize yourself when you're going to sleep. Like the last 5 minutes of sleep are really, you get into the hypnagogic state, which is, you know, that time right before you pass out, and you're going to sleep and you're awake, and you can kind of program your subconscious into, you know, delivering an answer you need, or you know, anything you're asking for, you know. And I talk about how I relate it to golf. Like if you're playing the next day, imagine yourself playing the best game of your life. And if you don't have a great imagination, just imagine your score lower than your friends. You know,
That's it.
imagine how it's going to smell, what you're wearing, how the balls are
Well,
going to smell.
one thing that I've come to realize is that everyone has a imagination, and at a genius level, they just sometimes left it back with the child inside of themselves.
Yep,
That's why, like, so much can happen just by like revisiting and reconnecting with our inner
I
child
agree with that.
to unlock that again, because we all have it. There's nobody who's not imaginative. They're just thinking of imagination in some context that's probably not the context that their imagination
That's
works.
correct.
And I
It's
think
not
as
right
you
or not.
reframe it, yeah, and it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about what you just said too. This idea of the relationship, imagination, and then this idea of like believing in an invisible celestial being. That's the same part of you that can believe in that and literally live your whole life for a lot of people based on that concept, right? And sometimes die for that concept.
Correct.
That's all coming from the same part of us that is imaginative. So it is powerful. And it's funny you said I am, because the one thing I always took away from that whole I am thing is that the main thing about I am is that it's not I was, and it's not that I will be.
Correct.
So what that means,
That's a good point.
okay, is that there's only one. So we are in a dimension of space and time that is constricted by a couple of things. One, gravity, which is something I have this weird relationship with gravity. You wanted to be an astronaut, by the way, so did I. I I don't like gravity, okay, but we're not going to go on that rabbit hole right now.
I know what you
But
mean. I know what you mean.
time, we are in a dimension where time is a thing, and so that there's only one way to connect to something outside of this dimension, and that is, especially if that something is outside of space and time, there's only one way to connect with that, and that is in the absolute present.
Yeah, and that's because time.
That is what's so powerful about what you're
That's
doing here.
correct.
It's the same thing with golf. There's only way to have a great golf game is if you're present. The more present you are, the better your golf game
Yep.
is. It also, the more present you are, the more connected you are to anything outside of this dimension of space and time.
That's right. And I talk about being present. I have a story called Presence, and I kind of invoke a little bit of a Bruce Lee in that one. And so, like, you know, when you're hitting a
Nice.
ball and when you're doing everything, you have to be present. I mean, you could look at all those videos on Tiger Woods all over, you know, YouTube and see how his dad used to kind of train him up and get him to that space and all that stuff. So, you know, but also, like, going back to the time thing, time is really the only thing we really do have is now. And they really say, and
That's it.
I do believe this, that the past, present, and future and everything that's ever happened is all happening at the same exact time. It's just that
That's
we
right.
access different
That's right.
timelines billions of times a day with each decision we make. And so, like,
And this is why being in the moment, being present, being centered, being mindful, it's why it's so powerful.
yes, and it's how you can live your best life, and that's my whole message. It's like my why is to help people live. I want to live my best life. I'm still working on it, and I
Of
want
course.
people to be. If they're not, some people aren't even working on it. They're just living the mundane routine. They're in the
Autopilot. Yeah.
every day.
Just on autopilot.
And I want to bring that awareness because I think that with AI, right, that's the newest, but you know, crypto and blockchain and NFTs and your iPhone and the next now the Apple Vision Pro. It's all about not connecting with yourself. It's all about how.
Right.
I just saw this demo from Zyre Golf. It's a golf who I love. They're an big Instagram handle, and they had a demo of a guy wearing. They were like, "This is what golf would be like on the golf course," and it was a guy wearing the Apple Vision Pro, and it showed him his yardage, and the comments were cracked me up. It's like, why am I going to the golf course to put that thing on my head? Like, why would I? The whole point of playing golf or being out in the field is to not have any technology around you. You don't.
Exactly.
That's defeating the entire purpose. Not to mention, it would slow down the round to like 9 hours. Like, why would you want people putting that on and you're like ahead of you? You know, you don't want to be waiting for somebody to be like, wait, let me watch part of the ESPN Sports Center really quick before I take the shot. You know, make the
Right.
cut. So
yeah, no, it's an oxymoron when it comes to golfing for
silly.
sure. But you know, it's interesting is that we have to always keep coming back to this, and there's some stuff out there that I think will have to be a part of it for this new generation that's going to have an augmented reality for their whole life.
Yeah.
So we have to be considering it because they, again, part of like the machine's going to win is that it's because the younger generations are going to be the machine's champion. And so the important part is that if we are going to use it, you know, using it for mindfulness creatively is still a thing. But some of this is like, there's nothing the machines are going to, you just, what you're advocating for, I think is correct, is that like you have to take a break from the machine to get fully connected.
Yeah, you do.
And you don't want to lose sight of that.
Because, you know, I don't think humans, you know, billions of years ago, you know, you can see how it is when you walk barefoot on the grass or look at water. It's scientifically, psychologically proven that it's good for you. So that's because we evolved that.
And the fact that we need science, 150 years ago, nobody needed science to believe that.
Right, correct. now we have to, exactly. And it's funny.
It's like, oh my God, like some of the most breakthrough
Totally.
scientific research right now is like not in remotely novel concepts.
No, they're not. And I have a chapter called "What's Old is New."
It's like, oh, you don't want to get cancer. Don't eat like everything in the world processed and like
Right. Exactly.
swallow pounds of
Exactly.
sugar a day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, that's so incredible. I can't believe they discovered that.
What's old is new. We
Mhm.
always end up going everything. Oh, that's why I keep talking about going analog, because I believe that's going to be another
Of
trend.
course.
Because everything goes
It's a very
cyclical.
important message right now.
Everything goes cyclical. I guarantee we'll go back to flip phones eventually, which we are actually already. So
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. My wife, the first thing she said when we woke up, I wasn't even awake. I'm like, I was in San Diego at an event yesterday and I'm like barely awake. And she's like, babe, I need a favor from you. I'm like, okay, what is it? And I'm like, this could be anything. And I'm like, I'm not even awake. And she's like, I need you to find me a flip phone. That's literally what she told me this morning. I'm like, all right, baby, I got you. And she's told me that before. So I've already been kind of researching them. But I can tell you one thing, you won't be alone if you go flip phone. My wife is getting hers this week.
Why does she want one?
The same reason of this whole conversation.
Yeah, got it.
Because she doesn't want all of that in her hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it's in your hand, you're going to partake.
Yep.
When things are in our hand, we partake. So the
It,
only way to not have it is to not have it in our hands.
right, and it just the colors. A lot of times people turn their iPhones black and white because it's helpful to not be addicted to scrolling, because
Nice. I hadn't heard of that.
The colors themselves are addicting. Just like your
Interesting.
yeah. So
That checks out. I am a radically visual person, so
me too.
I can relate to that.
Me too.
All right, so this has been amazing, John. This is more than I expected, to be honest. Not in a bad way, but this is great. I think if this is the stuff in your book, it's definitely an incredible book to read. So when does the book come out?
The book will be available for pre-sale in May, and then I believe this summer, July or August, it should be coming out. So I'm going to coincide it with
Excellent.
the middle of the golf season.
And is there like a place to find you, or is it best to just find you on social media?
Yeah,
is there like a website?
You can find me on at LinkedIn, just LinkedIn with me, or
Okay.
Instagram is just my name, John Rota. That would be the best.
Perfect.
I have an author site that's coming as well, so I'll have a lot of that stuff up too, and that'll be very accessible.
Nice. And do you think it'll be johnrota.com?
It's going to be thejohnrota.com.
Yeah, because of course somebody bought John Rota, and you have to pay them $1 million.
I don't
to
know.
get your own name.
I didn't approach him actually. I know who the guy is actually.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. I ended up finally buying mine. Not at first. It used to be Frankie Russo, but I finally bought mine. Wasn't too bad. I think it was like a little under $10,000 to get my own name. And then no one's using them either. It's just a bunch of pirates out there.
I gotta
have you do it.
this. I know who it is actually. So I kind of
Interesting.
I circumvented it because I was like,
okay,
whatever. I don't trust me.
Yeah,
my SEO.
It doesn't really matter. That what matters is what people are going to be searching for around your name.
Yes.
The domain is not as important as you winning the SEO game, which I have no doubt you will with the way that you're going to be more passionate than ever out there promoting this mission. Right. So I love it.
And Let Go, Let Golf.
Oh, good.
We'll be there too. So yeah,
that's it. Let Go, Let Golf is the book coming out. Pre-sales in May, all the way full out in June or July. John Rota, incredible thought leader on mindfulness and meditation in the form of recreation. Wow. I love
Thanks,
it.
Frank.
John, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been amazing.
I appreciate it.
All right. Until next time, everybody, thank you for tuning in for the School of Weird podcast.